Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of the Sport Overload podcast. I'm delighted to have Shane McCormack and Phil Healy on. Thanks for coming on, guys. Lovely to have you.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
No problem. So I'm going to kick this off with a round of quick fire questions, just to get it going. So the first question is for Phil. What would be your favourite dinner?
Anything with like chicken or salmon and veg. Just I'm easy please.
Right. Shane, you're up now. Who's your favourite Tipperary hurler?
Oh, Jesus. I'll be non-controversial and say Tommy Dunn.
Right. Phil, I know you've run a couple of distances, like 400 and 200. What would be your favourite distance?
Indoors, it's definitely 200, and outdoors, that's probably 200 as well. So let's go 200 overall.
Shane, what would be your favourite dinner?
My favourite dinner would be a good carbonara.
Or a crispy chicken with sweet and sour sauce.
Hey, the question was for me now, not you.
I've been doing my research on Wexford slang. What's that dish?
Risotto.
Yeah.
Risotto, yeah.
I was doing my research. The next question is for Phil. Who is the best coach you've had?
Oh, sure, look, we'd have to do Shane. He's there the longest, so he's a standout.
Yeah.
Right.
Shane, what has been your proudest moment as a coach?
I'd say obviously Phil coming fourth at the Europeans just gone was probably number one, but I'd say a close one, and people may not see this one, I suppose, directly, but with Phil broke her foot in 2019.
Yeah.
She was basically, world. This was back in April, so World Unis was the big target that year in July. We were obviously up against the clock. Probably shouldn't have been able to compete there. It was in Napoli, in Italy, in the famous. You'd have loved it now, Mark, being a sports fanatic. It was in the Napoli soccer stadium where Maradona was in his heyday, probably God over there. But Phil made it back with 5 weeks to spare to start running again, and with sort of 10 weeks of off-feet training, 5 weeks on the track, went to Italy. And still made the final and ran the same time in 3 races, heat semi-final. So for me, that was probably, as a coach, one of my proudest moments, just knowing what we had gone through to get to that point, but also just seeing the warrior aspect of what Phil can bring on her bad day, I suppose. We knew then that there was bigger days ahead. So that's probably my proudest coaching moment.
And Phil, what has been your proudest achievement to date?
Definitely, I think it's the fourth at Europeans 2 weeks ago. And then if I had to go again, it would 100%, as Shane said, would be Napoli, just coming back from the injury when we were in peak shape, and then everything was just turned upside down, or breaking the national records, the 100 and 200 outdoor ones, because they were the first, so they certainly were a big standout.
This next question is for both of you. What is the best race you've watched? For both of you.
Phil, do you want to go take that one?
Jeepers.
For me, I saw being live. I think Tommy Barr's medal at Europeans in Berlin is probably up there, just for the atmosphere, being in the Berlin Olympic Stadium. packed house, Tommy getting the medal, just the buzz that was there at the time, you know, that was kind of a standout one for me. And yeah,
Tommy's fourth in Rio was certainly up there as well.
Yeah.
Watching that on TV, him coming back. Geez, there's so many standout ones at the time. It's then you just forget them and they're replaced with others. But
I'm old enough to remember Sonia in her heyday, so like those ones really stand out for me because that you know, as a kid, it's back to the Italian 90 buzz, right? You're sitting around the television, you're you know, the sport is, Ireland is flying on a world stage, you're winning medals, you're competing in World Cups, like, so there was a great buzz around all of Sonia. They really do stand out. Phil is too young to remember Sonia race.
What would be your favourite venue to race in, Phil?
Berlin, the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, definitely. So we raced there in 2018 and there was like 65,000 people in the stand. So that's definitely a top one. Smaller meets, Geneva in Switzerland. And then if it's Ireland, CIT. Always for Cork City Sports.
What was the experience at the Europeans like?
It was a bit mad because obviously with restrictions and different things like that, it was very different to normal championships, like in terms of testing before we went, when we arrive, and testing when we're there, and just like not sharing rooms or wearing masks all the time and wearing masks in your call room, which is definitely hard. We had masks on right up until we went out onto the track, and then a mask on straight after when you finish racing. But like in terms of warm up and all that, that was all the same. But like say Shane wasn't allowed go because it was just limited to staff only within the team. So there was no personal coaches. But look, we were lucky to have a major championship, and it's different, but it's different for everybody. So you just have to make the most of it and do what you can, and not let it affect you. Like, we've prepared enough for it. We know what restrictions are. We know how to wear masks. It's just simple things in a different location.
And did that make it hard a few to go to say?
Not really. Like, I was listening to another podcast yesterday, the Roy Orbison one, that the guys do a great word to make people pick a film, and the kind of based podcast around that, or a sporting film. So yesterday Lee Moggan spoke about how the job of the coach is done when you turn up to compete, right? So like we do all the hard work behind the scenes, but when Phil goes to these competitions, there's not a whole lot I can do, right? It's over to the athlete at that point, and you kind of back out of there. So I think she's experienced enough that, you know, moments like that don't get to her, and not a whole lot that I do on the day anyway, other than just make sure she has her bibs and her spikes and things like that, like just the silly stuff. Like, so no, she didn't need me there as such. Obviously, maybe I shouldn't go anymore because she had her best results, so could be a model for the future.
Irish Society seems to be in a great place, like between you, Nadia Power, Shifa Butler. What do you think that sounds like?
I think it's just in terms of like coaches and coaches learning from new different things, and everything is developing and science is developing, and coaches are like looking into the science aspect a lot more and not accepting that it's just run and that's it. Like, there's so many elements to the sport, and so many people in your team. And like Shane would look after all the science stuff, but we have a physiologist as well, who Shane would have worked with closely. So like you just have to learn in the sport, and you have to reach out to other coaches, because if you're not going to learn, how are you going to improve? And you're letting everybody else make the steps then, and you won't drop. It comes down to ego and coaching. If you refuse to learn, you're not going to get better, and you're just going to repeat the same things over and over. And it doesn't matter what sport you're in. You could be in athletics, you could be in rugby, GA, whatever. You can see now in GAA, it's not just about the game. There's so many aspects to GAA, and how the speed element comes in, and how the whole athletic side comes in. If teams are refusing to learn those aspects, then they're at a disadvantage. So it comes down to coaches, and all the coaches that are involved within the team willing to learn and make the improvement.
And I have a few questions here. Thanks to you, Shane, because you retweeted the thing on Twitter. So you might regret this though, because there's a few nice ones in there for you. So we'll start it off nicely. And this one's for Phil. And someone asked, what advice would you give to teenagers to get what advice would you give to teenagers involved in athletics based on your own experience?
Yeah, so I certainly was a late developer, and I didn't focus fully on athletics until I was 17. So when I was in 5th year, so success in Ireland is always judged on if you win, or if you bring home a medal, or if you won the game, or but people need to move away from that. And success is about winning for yourself. So you have to do your best. So you don't have to be the fastest, you don't have to be the best on the pitch, you don't have to be the standout player. You just have to do the best you can do, and just constantly improve that. So in terms of athletics, just explore so many different events. I didn't move to 400 until I was 22, 23. So if you're in your teenage years, you have so much time to play around with different events, and just enjoy it for what you're doing, and don't be influenced because your friends are off doing GA or certain things, and you think you have to fall under that bracket. If you enjoy the sport, you continue doing the sport and go out there and give it your best. And if it isn't your best on a certain day, the next day is an opportunity to improve that again.
Yeah, I have another one here for you as well. Phil said you respond more to strength-based training and did lots of 500 and 600. What kind of volume and paces per session were these in the various phases up to build up to the Euros? Is there a go-to session that she does in the lead up to a competition that gives her confidence?
So it certainly takes a lot of time to build up of those sessions, and I could start off a winter season and be absolutely chronic, as Shane well knows, on those sessions, and I'm well, that's not good enough. I shouldn't be running those times. It should be far quicker. And I hit the panic mode, and it just takes a few weeks to get into it. But you just have to, I have my markers from other seasons, and I'm why am I not running this time? But I'm just not there yet, and I just have to put the weeks back to back over those distances. So you just have to build it up slowly, and Shane mixes it up between 3 reps, 4 reps. It just depends on the sessions. And I certainly know my trainings in and out. So regardless of the sessions, in the lead up to a championship, I know the markers that I need to be hitting in terms of all reps. So that certainly would be my marker, and there's no particular session as such.
And we have another one here for you also. Many potential top class athletes are involved in other sports as teenagers. and athletics is not on the radar. How can we change this and how can we do better to encourage potential top class talent to come and stay in our sport?
I think there is so much work being done in the promotion of the sport, and like you even saw for like European indoors, there was no other main sport on television in Ireland that weekend. So like so many new people watched the sport and became a fan of the sport. So it comes down to media and the exposure of the sport for kids to realise what the sport entails, but it definitely comes back into what can be done in schools, how can it be improved. RDO, like regional development officers, are doing a great job between clubs in the regions just to promote the sport for the younger people. But it definitely comes down to visibility in order to keep the people in it. But there can be dropouts because, again, people are influenced too much too easily and make the decision based on what their friends are doing, or instead they might want to keep going at the sport, or again, because they're not winning, they see it as a failure. But sport is just so important for everybody's physical health and mental health, and you should just keep any aspect of it up that you can and just enjoy it. And like, it's a breakaway from study. It keeps me organized all the time, keeps me disciplined, and right through all my like secondary school and college as well. It made a massive difference. So yeah.
And now the first question for Shane. I don't know who this is from. I forgot to write down who it was from. But I presume you know this person. They're asking about your fascination with Crocs.
As I said to somebody else, it saves me getting up in the morning looking for a pair of socks to that match. So Crocs are convenience and they're comfortable.
Right.
And it could be the coldest day ever, and Shane is still wearing Crocs.
Correct.
Women in sport is obviously a big thing, and you seem to be a great advocate for it. How and girls and teenagers in general that tend to drop off in sport. How can we get more girls to stick with sport, do you think?
Yeah, I think as Phil alluded to earlier on, pressures come in from all sides to conform socially as teenagers, and sometimes sport isn't seen as cool. Sometimes going out with your friends is cooler. And if sport isn't, I suppose there's two types of people. There's two, you could have girls that are really good at their sport, and that will keep them in the sport, right? Because they're getting success and they're getting their buzz out of that, and they know that, okay, I'm enjoying this. But then there's the other element where sport mightn't be going as well, so it's easy to drop out. It's easier to say, I won't bother with training tonight, and because maybe sport isn't going as well. But that could be nothing to do with their ability. That could be just that their age, their maturity level, their development, and that's what you're alluding to there. Is that's where we lose girls, especially but we lose teenagers across the board, and COVID is not going to help an awful lot either. So I think girls need they need mentors. They need female mentors. They need male advocates and allies. But they need, girls like Phil, Sarah Lavins, Shifras, Dervils, Ailish McSweeney, who Phil would have been mentored by in the past as she was young, when she was younger. But I don't think there's one silver bullet for it. I think there's we just need to build better structures to keep girls in sport at the crucial stages, and I think that's where we need to build networks of mentorship groups from senior athletes and sports people that have gone through it, because we've some unbelievable ambassadors for female sport in Ireland, like Sarah Rose, and the tip girls that are flying the flag of football, like the Ashley Maloney's, and there's some unbelievable, we were lucky to work with Alison Miller over the years as well. And it's my experience, it's these are unbelievable sports people. Like, you know what I mean? There's not sports women, they're sports people. And there's an awful lot for young girls to look up to in Ireland at the moment that we need to just harness. And the 20 by 20 was brilliant, and it really, you know, it put it out there, but like we need to build on that now. And I think there are some unbelievable advocates in Ireland in you know, that are pushing this agenda. And because it's not just it can't be just for a short while, it has to be forever. Like, and Phil always makes the point about when you buy the newspaper and you open up the sports section, like very rarely is the front page a female sport, or it's about female sports. So, but like, look, Sky have come in behind, you know, soccer, women's soccer in England. You know, the GAA is giving more like airtime. Like TG4 did a great job with the Camogian football last year through the pandemic. So we just got to keep moving the dial here. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're talking about sports people here. You know.
And what's your take on that, Phil?
Yeah, I think the same. And even like as kids are growing up, like when I was growing up, you see what's on television, you see what's on the papers. And if female sports aren't made household names, then how are the kids supposed to get to know them? So like you have the likes of Jackie Hurley's book now, which is there for kids, and for kids to see all the great sports stars that have had their careers and are now retired, but also people that are still going through their career. So it does come down to media coverage in order to promote females and to get kids to recognize them and to aspire to be them. And like it could be as well female coaches. Some female athletes may prefer to have female coaches in certain sports, so we need to encourage more coach education in supporting female coaches, that it is made possible. But it's definitely a tricky one, but it's moving in the right direction, and the talent is there in female sports as much as male sports, so one shouldn't be taking precedence over the other.
And like I think just to build on that, like I think like fairness to governing bodies like Athletics Ireland are investing in this as well. Like we've got Liliane O'Hora in Athletics Ireland, who's, just to build on Phil's point about, you know, women in sport and coaching, like she is pushing that agenda, and she's creating awareness and, you know, providing pathways and education for, you know, female coaches. Because, look, to be honest with you, some of the best coaches in Ireland are females, and we should be building on that as well. Like, so I think, yeah, just to build on what Phil said there.
And we're lucky as well in athletics because men and women compete on the same day, so we don't have like discrepancies that you would see in like rugby, GA and soccer. So yes, we are a minority sport and we don't get the same coverage as the other big sports, but we don't have the inequalities that you would see in the bigger sports. So we are lucky in that way, and it goes across like rowing and different ones like that where they all compete on the same day.
Shane, you know, because of COVID, like, are you still with Tipperary, or what's the story there?
No, like with well, like, yeah, on paper, but no, obviously with intercounty being I suppose group training has been shut down. But you know, the guys are obviously all doing their individual programs and things like that. So when things kick back in, hopefully sooner rather than later, yeah, I look forward to being back on the green grass in Tipperary.
And just another question: what's it like? Liam Shane seems a character, so what's it like to be with him? Like,
I think like Liam's one of those guys that is just, you know, I think you're privileged to be near him when he's working and just witness how he operates. Like he's a brilliant manager, he's a brilliant organizer, he's a brilliant motivator. You know, he's just a very, you know, he's a very what's the word I'm looking for? He just brings an energy. He brings an energy to everything that he does. So a lot of the time I'm just happy to be able to see him and his backroom team operate, because I'm used to being on a track and just being a sole sort of a, operator as a coach. And, we have a team behind us, but we don't see them an awful lot, like only every now and again is for physio or, consultancy with a physiologist, things like that. Like, but really it's just myself and Phil in the training group. Whereas it's nice to walk into a team environment like that as well. And you're surrounded by, lads with a couple of All-Irelands in their back pockets as well. So it's good to be around people that have won and know what winning is like, because they're the guys and girls that know how and what it takes to win. And that I feed off that as well. And I bring that back into my own sport of athletics as well. It's always good to surround yourself with winning mentalities and see how other people like Liam Sheedy operate in a different sporting environment, because at the end of the day, it's, while amateur in status, the operation is high performance and execution. So I'm always interested in how high performing teams operate.
And what was the All Ireland in 2019 like?
I was, to be honest with you, I've a very small cog in a big machine that year. So to be just a part of the, to build up and to play the little part that I did in trying to influence their on-field speed, and I think, look, they were just magnificent that year, and it was a great experience for me. Something I'm not going to forget very, very quickly. And it probably came at a good time because, Phil unfortunately hurt herself with her foot that year. So it was like, it was a nice, from a coaching perspective, it was a nice change of scenery, and it's just a distraction because obviously we put so much into athletics and Phil's career that both of us were devastated with the injury and things like that. So it was a great year, even though they did beat Wexford along the way. So my mum was a Wexford GA fanatic, so that went down like a lead balloon. But sure, look, this is the sport at the end of the day. It's good crack.
Yeah. And going back to the injury, like breaking your foot and going back in 12 weeks, I think, was it?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Like, it must have taken great determination and etc. Like
100%. And like, so I broke it on a Thursday, and we were back training on the Saturday. So we were on warm weather, a training camp at the time in Malta. At the time in Malta, and so I was seen by the doctors over there, and they put me in crutches and a boot. So it was straight back into training. I obviously wasn't able to run because of a broken foot, so we had to adapt in every way that we could. And it was just like rowing on the rowing machine with one leg in and one leg off the side. We tried pedaling on the bike with one leg, which was certainly tough, and it was just like doing as much as we can. And like, even just when we came back to Ireland, swimming, Shane even did some of the sessions, and it was just adapting any way that we could. And we came out of the boot after about 2 weeks, and then like I did anti-gravity treadmill and different things like that. So it was hard, but it was harder when I was able to run, when I was coming back from the injury, when I was allowed run, than when I was not allowed run, because it was just like learning how to run again, because I had been like in the boot, not walking properly for so long. It was hard, but it just clicked then a couple of days before we went to World Universities, and about 2 weeks before World Universities, I was like to myself, I can't go, like this isn't going well, but you just have to stick with it. And it all came to plan. But we worked so hard for it, and like training so much, twice a day, 3 times a day sometimes, and like I had to use various machines to help with the recovery, and diet became a big part as well, in speeding it up. And I certainly did speed it up because they thought I was going to be out much longer than I was. So it was great to come back, and great to come back so quickly, avoid surgery, because that could be a career-ending injury for some people. But we came back in such a short space of time.
Yeah, and what would be your schedule? Like, obviously you're juggling college and training, so like, what would be your schedule on a day?
Yeah, so I'm just doing college part-time. So I just finished my master's. Actually, a year ago I finished it. In WIT. So it's great to have the support of WIT and like all their facilities and all their services. But I've done an add-on module just to keep me going, because like, yes, I'm a full-time athlete, but it's nice to have something on the side as well, and distraction. And like, for me, it's so important to have that academic side, because sport isn't going to last forever either. So I do have my degrees and I do have my add-on modules, so that I can just walk into a job after with the degrees that I have. So it is so important to have that. And it's great working with WIT and everything that they offer. Shane, myself, the training group, it's certainly really well established in comparison to so many other colleges in Ireland and all that they give to us. But I train 6 days a week. Saturday I have fully off, and then like there's 3 gym sessions in there, there's bike sessions in there, and there's track sessions in there. So for me, like someone else listening, it might seem like an awful lot, but it's just routine for me, and it's like normal, you know. And I know no different at this stage. So it works for me, and we have everything scheduled out to plan.
And obviously, you're trying to get into qualification for Tokyo. How's that going?
Yeah, so the qualification system for Tokyo, they take the top 56 ranked athletes in the world, and at the moment I'm ranked 29 to 30th. So I just need to stay where I am, and I'll be on the plane to Tokyo, or I'll need to like lower myself further on the list. And hopefully we will try qualifying in the 400 as well, because you carry 5 times overall, and each race brings different points, and each event has extra bonus points and different things like that. So it's about getting the right race in the right event or location with the points that are coming with it, and you take your 5 best times overall.
It's obviously disappointing that there'll be no overseas fans like there.
100%, because the Olympics is the pinnacle of everyone's career, and the Olympics is like a massive, massive event, and like it's a whole spectacle for people watching. It's a whole crazy time for like different brands and marketing and different things like that. So in terms of like the amount of people that tune into the opening ceremony alone, like the whole Olympic Village, it's like everything is a whole new experience for athletes, and it's multi-sport, and that's what we are used to everywhere we go. So it will certainly be a different Olympic Games, and being flown home straight after your event and different things like that. But look, you're training so hard and you sacrifice so much for Olympics. Any athlete will take the Olympics going ahead over having overseas fans coming in. So like obviously we would love to have the fans there, but if the games go ahead and it means they go ahead without fans, then any athlete will take that across all sports.
Yeah. I feel like I'm leaving the ocean.
That's fine. It's about Phil, not about me.
Well, you were the one that pretty much got me the interview, so I feel like I should be including you more.
I should just ask me more food questions, whatever. Throw anything at me.
Okay. Who do you like more, Liam Sheedy or Davy Fitz?
Oh, sure, Jays, they're two good fellas. That's a controversial question. But I don't know Davy Fitz, and I know Liam, and what I know of Liam, I like an awful lot. So I'll sit on that one.
Right. Let's think of a few more interesting questions. If Wexford and Tipperary were to meet in the All-Ireland final, who would you want to win?
Who would I want to win? See, like at the end of the day, like, you know, if I was a coach with a team, that's where that's where your work is at. You're working for them to create their success. If I wasn't interested in being a successful coach, then I wouldn't coach, right? So at the end of the day, it's who you're working with. Obviously, I'm from Wexford, and they've met in the game. I'm not a hardcore GA person. I play GA, but like athletics is my draw, so it's not something that overly upsets me or impacts me. At the end of the day, it's a pleasure to have the experience to work with Tip. I was asked to work with them, and I thoroughly enjoy working with them and look forward to working with them in the future.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something now. I don't mean to offend you. I just picked up on something you said there, and you've said it a few times. You remind me a bit of Roy Keane. And you probably know the word I'm going to say. You've said it at the end of the day a couple of times.
If that's the only thing that compares me to Roy Keane, then you know what I mean. Obviously, it's nice to be compared to Roy Keane, but if it's only a saying that joins us, then I definitely don't have his soccer talent. So,
you look Cork quality.
Yeah.
I'd say there's a bit of a rivalry between you.
What's that, Mark? Sorry.
I'd say there's a bit of a rivalry between you.
Between
you and Phil, like saying that she's from Cork and you're from Wexford.
Oh yeah, we've great banter out of that. She's not from Cork; she's from West Cork. So there's a big difference.
There's a difference, Mark. West Cork is different now to main Cork, but
what's the difference?
West Cork is pure quality now in terms of in comparison to the city. So like you'll have to get yourself down to West Cork now, and even sport alone, West Cork, the quality of West Cork sport, and so you have the rowers with the Olympic silver, you have multiple rowers with different world European medalists, you have the rugby players, Conor Hourahan in the soccer, athletics, there's so many people, so pure quality down there, I tell you.
Oh yeah, there's a few people from Wexford like they're good at sport as well, aren't they, Shane?
There's plenty of people from Wexford that are good at sports, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, Shane was a good fella in his own day as well. Scored a cracker goal.
Would you like to expand the goal?
No. No. It's a running joke about some unbelievable goal I scored in the Junior A county final, but look, I'll have to dig up the video footage of that.
And are you still playing GA? Well, obviously not now.
No, I'm 41 now, and my body gave up a long time ago. So, no, I'd like to still be playing, but.
Would you not stick yourself in goals?
Oh, I don't have the time for that, man. If you could find me the hours in the day to stand between the sticks, I'd gladly accept it. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have the time for
that. So we'll leave it there unless you have anything else to say. It was great to have you on.
Thanks a million for having us on.
Thanks for having us. We wish you the best with your future podcast career.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll keep in contact.
100%.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to come on again if you want. Like,
oh, we'll come back for the chat, Mark. Don't worry about
that. Bye. Good luck. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
See ya.
Bye.
So I just like to say a big thank you to Phil Healy and Shane McCormack for coming on. I had great crack with them, and just want to say well done to Phil on her success in Tokyo since the interview.